There are places in this world where the forest goes quiet all at once, where the birds stop singing, where the shadows between the trees get darker than they should be, where something is waiting and it's learning your name. Tonight, three people who went into the deep woods will tell you what they found. A hunter who heard his name called from the dark, followed for 45 minutes by something that never showed itself. A wildlife technician who watched kind of fresh footprints appear in a locked cabin, starting and ending at solid walls, and a search and rescue veteran who found a hiker's campsite perfectly intact, except the man was gone. No trail, nobody, just boots, laced clean, waiting outside the tent. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and remember, never speak your name out loud in the forest, because something out there is collecting them. Story 1. The Voice That Knew My Name. I've been hunting the Allegheny since I was 12 years old. My father taught me the ridgelines, the creek beds, the way deer move through the hemlocks before the first frost. I know that forest the way some men know their own backyards. I can read the weather in the way the birds stop singing. I can find water in the dry season by looking at the lichen on the north side of eastern cedars. I know which shadows mean sunset and which shadows mean something else. So when I tell you something was wrong that November morning, I need you to understand, I don't say that lightly. I've been sitting with this for 2 years and I still can't explain it without feeling my hands shake. I've told my wife, I've told my brother. Both times I watched their faces change about halfway through. That's when I stopped telling people. It was the third morning of archery season. A cold, gray Tuesday. I'd hiked in from the Tionesta Creek trailhead before 4 a.m., well before legal shooting light, moving slow and quiet through the dark. The forest at that hour is not the forest you know in daylight. It's deeper. It's heavier. The trees feel like they're pressing closer together, like the dark itself has weight. I had a stand set up about 1.25 miles in, a big white oak on a ridge saddle where 2 deer runs crossed. Perfect spot. I'd scouted it since August. I settled in before first light, got comfortable, and just waited. By 9, I hadn't seen much. A doe and her fawn around 6:30, too far and no shot. After that, nothing. The woods went very still, the kind of still that happens after a weather front moves through and everything hunkered down. Cold. Gray, quiet, not the quiet of emptiness, the quiet of waiting. I kept checking my watch because I couldn't tell if time was moving or if I was just sitting there in the same minute forever. I was thinking about climbing down and pushing deeper toward the creek bottom when I heard it. My name, not shouted, not called out loud, said calmly, evenly, like someone was standing just behind me and had simply decided to get my attention. The voice was close enough that I could hear it like it was inside my own head. Close enough that the sound seemed to vibrate in my chest. I'd spun around on the platform so fast I nearly lost my footing. My bow knocked against the wood and I didn't even catch it. Nothing. Just timber. Just shadow between the trunks, shifting in that pale gray November light that filters through bare branches and makes everything look like it's underwater. No one. I sat there with my heart in my throat and told myself it was the wind, that I dozed off for a second and dreamed it. That old man gets tired and hears things. Then it came again. Same tone, same volume, same word. My first name, said quietly, from the tree line about 60 yards down the ridge to my left. There was no wind. The air was dead calm. The leaves weren't moving. Nothing was moving except me. I am not a man who spooks easily, but I came down from that stand in about 15 seconds. Movements I cannot fully account for, moving on instinct, blood running cold. I stood at the base of the oak with an arrow nocked and stared at the tree line. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold the bow. Nothing moved. I waited 4 minutes. I counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I started walking out. I want to be precise about what I heard for the next 45 minutes as I made that mile-plus hike back toward the trailhead. The voice followed me. Not at a run, not crashing through brush. It kept pace, matched my speed perfectly. Always about 60 to 80 yards back, always in the timber, never visible. Like something was walking parallel to me, on the same ridge, in the same dark, at the same speed, and I was never going to see it. And every few minutes, it said my name again. Always the same, with that patient, flat, neutral tone, like something reading a word off a page and not quite understanding what a name is supposed to feel like in the mouth. Like it was practicing, like it was learning how to say it right. The first time I heard it again, I stopped. I stood there in the middle of the trail, bow in one hand, and I said, "Who's there?" The voice said my name. I said, "Show yourself." The voice said my name again. Same tone, same distance, same lack of movement, nothing in the trees, nothing in the shadows, just a sound. I started walking again, faster. By the 10th time I heard it, I was running. Not running like a man who's scared, running like a man who knows something is behind him and he's not going to wait to see what it does. My boots were slamming into the dirt. My breath was coming so hard I could taste it. The voice kept pace, always the same distance, always behind me, always in the dark between the trees. And then, for the first time, it said something else. Not my name. A word. A single word, spoke in the same flat way, like it was reading from a list. Yours. It said, yours. And then it said my name again. That's when I understood something that I don't think I can explain to anyone who hasn't heard it. That voice wasn't trying to call me. It was trying to claim me. It was learning my name the way a predator learns the shape of prey. Not to know it, but to own it, to make it part of itself. The last time I heard it was maybe 100 yards from the trailhead. I could see the road through the trees. I could see my truck. I could see the light. Then silence. Complete silence. Not the quiet of the forest, not the quiet of waiting. The silence of something that has stopped because it's finished. I got to my truck, locked the doors, and sat there for 20 minutes before I could drive. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see the tree line. I didn't want to see the shadows. I didn't want to see anything that looked like it could be hiding something. I've gone back to Allegheny 4 times since. Always with someone else. I go back to different areas, different ridges, different creek drains. I haven't heard it again. But there are things I notice now that I didn't before. The way the forest sometimes goes quiet all at once, like a switch being thrown. The way certain shadows between trunks seem too dark, too persistent, darker than the rest, like they're not made of shadow at all, but something else. Something that drinks the light. The way, if you're out there long enough, you start to feel like the act of knowing your own name is something that should be guarded. Not shared, not spoken out loud into the dark, because something out there is collecting them. I hear it when I'm in my garage at night, when I'm washing dishes, when I'm trying to sleep. A whisper just behind me saying my name the same flat way. Not calling, not asking, just saying it, learning it. And sometimes, when I'm very quiet, I think I hear it practicing other names too, like it's getting ready. Story 2, Footprints from Nowhere. The position was called a wildlife survey technician, which sounds more official than it was. I was 26, freshly out of a biology program in Morgantown, and the job was simple. Spend 6 weeks in a backcountry monitoring cabin in the Monongahela National Forest. Document mammal activity on a grid of remote cameras and track stations. Submit weekly data packets via satellite uplink. No vehicle access. Supply drops by a Forest Service contractor every 2 weeks. Nearest road, 11 miles. Nearest structure with a phone, further than that. I'd done solo fieldwork before. I liked the silence. I went in prepared, methodical, and unafraid. I came out different. The cabin was small, 12 by 16, wood-paneled, 1 room with a loft. A wood stove in the corner, a cot in the loft, a table and 2 chairs, a window facing east, a door facing south. Simple, isolated, quiet. It started on the 3rd week. A Tuesday around 2 in the morning. I woke to a sound I couldn't name. Not loud, not sharp, just present in a way that reached into my sleep and pulled me out of it. The kind of sound that makes your skin crawl before you even know what you're hearing. The cabin was dark. The wood stove had died down, just a faint glow in the embers, cold air coming through the cracks. I lay still for a moment listening and heard nothing else. But I knew I wasn't alone. I knew it the way you know something without being able to say why. Your body knows before your mind does. I got up to add wood to the stove, and that's when I saw them. Footprints, crossing the cabin floor left to right, from the west wall to the east wall, muddy, clear, unambiguous human footprints, adult-sized, bare feet, walking at a normal pace, stride length roughly 2 feet. The trail started at the west wall and ended at the east wall. Just ended. No door on either wall. The west wall was solid timber, 8 inches thick, no gaps. The east wall was solid timber. There was no point of entry. There was no point of exit. The prints simply began and simply stopped, as if someone had taken 8 steps across my floor and then ceased to exist. I stood there in my socks for a very long time. My breath was coming fast. My hands were cold. I couldn't move. I checked the door, locked, dead-bolted from the inside, undisturbed. The bolt was still in the same position I'd left it. I checked every window, all latched, all closed, the glass intact. I checked the underfloor access hatch, padlocked, undisturbed. The padlock threaded through a bolt I had installed myself on day 1. I checked the loft. I checked the corners. I checked the space behind the stove. There was no one in the cabin. I was alone. I photographed everything. I took 12 photos from different angles. I measured the prints with my tape. 8 inches long, 3 inches wide at the heel. Normal adult foot. I noted the time in my field journal, 2:17 a.m. Then I sat in the main room with the hatchet across my knees until first light. I told myself the explanation was mundane, and I was missing it. Condensation. A sleepwalking episode I had no memory of. Some kind of frost or moisture event that had created the impression of a pattern. I am a scientist. I default to the rational. I held onto that posture for 3 more days until it happened again. This time it was raining. Thick, heavy rain that drummed on the roof and made the whole cabin feel like it was floating. I was awake, sitting at the table writing up a camera report at 11:30 at night. The stove was lit, the cabin warm. The rain was the only sound. I heard nothing, no sound at all. Not a footstep, not a breath, not a shift in the air. But when I stood to refill my coffee mug and turned around, there were fresh prints on the floor. Wet, still darkening the wood as I watched, as if the moisture were slowly soaking in. The same pattern, west wall to east wall, 8 steps, bare feet, beginning and ending at solid timber. I was looking at the floor when the last one appeared. I watched it press into existence, watched the grain of the wood darken, watched the shape of a foot slowly emerge from nothing, as if something weightless were crossing a surface I could not perceive. I dropped the mug. It hit the floor and shattered. I didn't move. That's when I heard it. A sound, not a voice, not a word, just a sound like something breathing very slowly, very close. From the west wall, the wall where the prints began. I stood there for a minute, then 2. Then I grabbed the hatchet and I walked to the west wall and I pressed my ear against the wood. Nothing. Just the rain. Just the cabin. Just the dark. I radioed the supply contractor the next morning and requested an early extraction. I cited a personal emergency because I did not know how to cite what I had seen. The contractor said he'd be there in 3 days. I spent those 3 days sitting in the main room with the hatchet across my knees, watching the door, watching the walls, watching the floor. Nothing happened. On the helicopter, out, I looked down at the cabin through the window. It sat at the edge of a meadow, clean and small and ordinary looking, surrounded by timber that went for miles. The rain had stopped. The sun was breaking through. It looked normal. It looked safe. It looked like it was waiting. I have never seen a rational explanation for wet footprints forming in a locked, occupied room in real time. I have stopped looking for one. Some doors, I've come to believe, are not doors at all. Some thresholds are simply places where the structure of things grows thin, and something on the other side learns how to press through. I do not go into backcountry cabins alone anymore. But sometimes, when I'm in my own apartment at night, when the lights are low and the silence is deep, I hear it again. That slow, quiet breathing from the wall. And sometimes when I look at my floor in the morning, I see new prints, fresh, wet, walking from one wall to the other, beginning and ending at nothing. Story 3. The Ridge. I've been on search and rescue in Garrett County for 11 years. I've found people alive, and I've found them dead, and I've found everything in between. I've worked in floodwater, in blizzards, in summer heat so thick you can barely breathe, on slopes so steep your knees are shaking before you've gone 100 meters. I've pulled hikers out of ravines. I've carried bodies down ridges. I've held dying men's hands and told them their families were coming. I have a high tolerance for what the wilderness does to people and to the mind. I've seen things that most people would call impossible, and I've learned to accept them as facts. So when I tell you that what we found on that ridge in October of 2022 was the thing that broke something in me permanently, I need you to understand that I mean it clinically, not dramatically, just as a fact. The call came in on a Thursday evening. Missing male, 34 years old, experienced backcountry hiker, overdue returning from a 3-day solo in the Savage River State Forest. Name was Daniel Reese. His girlfriend had dropped him at the trailhead Monday morning. He was supposed to call by Wednesday night. No call. Late Thursday, she called the park. No answer. She called his phone. No answer. We mobilized Friday morning. 6-person team, 2 dogs, full technical gear. Cold, clear day. Good visibility. The forest was quiet, the kind of quiet that happens when autumn settles in and everything's waiting for the first hard frost. We picked up his trail fast. He was a clean hiker. Good boot prints, no nonsense, moving at a solid pace up toward the ridge spine. The dogs were working well. One was a border collie, the other a gray shepherd. Both trained, both reliable. Both had found people before. By early afternoon, we were maybe a mile from the last confirmed print location, and both dogs stopped at the same moment, sat down, refused to advance, both at the same time. No alerting, no agitation, no barking, no growling, just a complete cessation of will to move forward. They sat. They looked at us. They looked at the ridge, and they did not move. In 11 years, I've seen a dog stop for a scent. I've seen a dog stop for fear. I've seen a dog stop for pain. This was the second kind. This was the kind where a creature knows something is wrong and it decides it will not go closer. We went ahead without them. The ridge was low, maybe 200 feet of elevation, covered in eastern hemlock in old oak. The ground was soft, wet from the night before. The trees were thick, the shadows deep. We moved in a line, 2 men on each side, checking the trail, checking the ground, checking everything. We found his campsite at the crest of the ridge at 3:14 p.m. And I am going to describe it to you exactly as we found it because the precision matters. His tent was staked and standing, fly properly tensioned, nothing disturbed. The material was dry, the ropes intact, the stakes buried clean in the dirt. No sign of a struggle, no sign of a rapid departure. His pack was set up against a cedar about 4 feet from the tent door. Not dropped, not thrown, but placed, leaned neatly with the hip belt buckled back onto itself the way you do when you're done for the day. The pack was open. Inside, his gear was organized. His water bottles were full. His food was untouched. His camp stove, his water filter, his bear canister, all present, all organized, all exactly as an experienced hiker would leave them. His sleeping bag was laid out inside the tent, smooth flat, pillow at the top. His headlamp was clipped to the tent loop directly above where his head would have been, switched off, battery still good. His boots were outside the tent door, side by side, heels aligned, toes pointing outward, laced. I stood there for a long moment looking at those boots. Something about them was wrong in a way that took me time to name. When a person takes their boots off and sets them outside their tent, they don't lace them back up. Nobody does that. You loosen the laces, you pull them off, you drop them. You don't relace boots you just removed. It takes time, it takes intention. It takes the kind of care you use when you're preparing something for someone else to see. Those boots were laced with the kind of care you'd use to prepare something for display. We searched the surrounding area for the rest of that day and all of the next. We widened the grid. We brought in additional teams. We worked that ridge for 3 full days. We found no footprints leaving the campsite. Not one. The soil was soft. Conditions were good. We found every print coming in, mapped his movements over 3 days of camping. His tent was set. His pack was leaned. His boots were outside. And then at the moment he stepped out of those boots, every trace of him simply stopped. As if he had been lifted. As if the ridge had opened and pulled him down into itself. Daniel Reese was never found. I've written the incident report. I've attended the debriefs. I've checked the National Missing Persons Registry every few months for 2 years. Nothing. Nobody. No evidence. No explanation. I drove the Trailhead Road last fall just to drive it. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to see if it would feel different. Maybe I wanted to see if anything had changed. I parked at the bottom, looked up at the ridge through the windshield. Just the tree line against a gray sky. Just the forest, still and enormous, and perfectly ordinary looking. But as I sat there, I noticed something. The birds had stopped singing. All of them. Just stopped. One after another over the course of maybe 30 seconds, until the whole forest was silent. Not the quiet of waiting. Not the quiet of a storm coming. The silence of something that has arrived. I got out of the car. I stood there. I looked at the ridge. And I heard it. Not a voice, not a word. Just a sound, low and quiet. Like something breathing from deep in the trees. Like something that had been waiting for me to come back. I drove away. Those laced boots haven't left my mind for a single week since. Something up there took its time with him. Something that understood, at least in theory, how things are supposed to be left when a person is done. Something that knows how to make things look normal. Something that is still there. And sometimes when I'm on the ridge now, when the forest is quiet and the wind is still, I hear it again. That low, quiet breathing from the trees, waiting, watching, learning.
This has been Whisper Dread Studios. Some stories were never meant to be told. We told it anyway.